Good afternoon, KHM agents and agents across the globe. Welcome to KHM Today, your weekly resource for industry news and straight up fun. I am your host, Carolyn Bill, live from our corporate office in Brunswick, Ohio for the first time on our new platform. So we thank you for finding us on YouTube. We have so much that is going on with this show over the next couple of months, and we want to make sure that you have the latest and greatest. So please make sure that you're touching base with our website, www.khmtoday.com. You're going to find information on past episodes that are coming up, and there's a great new form there that you can fill out if you have a suggestion for a segment, if you would like to be a guest on the show and feel like you have something to say to all of our viewers. And there's also a great form to fill out if you want to ask a question to the show that we will then feature and give you a fantastic answer in our Ask KHM Today segment. So be sure to be referencing that website often for the latest updates on this show. But I am so excited to welcome Mr. Bill Coyle, Vice President of Engagement for KHM Travel Group, here today to talk about some of our latest headlines. What do you think of the setup?
This is fantastic. Look at these, the cool mugs. Yeah. I like that.
We are having so much fun. It's been such a joy being here this week. And I want to say, everyone said, what kind of day is it in Cleveland? And I said, well, sort of sunny. It's probably the best weather I've ever experienced here. So anyway, it is, and this is the best. And it's a little drizzly, it looks like outside, but we are excited to be here. And we're going to start with talking about the CDC dropped its.
I don't know what those letters.
You don't know what the CDC stands for after all these years. Dropped its travel ratings for many of our favorite destinations from a 4 to a 3. And you might be thinking, well, that's not a big deal. But to some of our clients, it actually is a big deal. So some of those islands include St. Lucia, Belize, Canada. When I was down in Mexico, I think it was my family and the rest were Canadians. So everyone's got this pent up demand. So any thoughts on what this looks like and the future of travel for us?
Thanks a lot for having me. I love that you say straight up fun. That's kind of a cool tagline that you use. I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking pessimistically optimistic, optimistically pessimistic. And it's just because we've seen what the CDC has done in the past, up and down, but anytime we're going down, we're going in the right direction. I feel good about that. I think it's always good that we take into consideration that we're sharing that information with our clients, but we're also finding out what those requirements are. Are there requirements for arrival or return changing? And really, we need that requirement for the return to change back to the U.S. Yes. That would be so helpful.
Yes.
But I'll be honest with you, we see an uptick in inquiries when it comes to the CDC lowering that. So we know that your consumers are checking that site all the time to find out who's on and who's off.
Exactly. And Jamaica, I believe, went to a 1, which is amazing because they've had some of the hardest protocols. But they've done a great job. And so I'm excited. I feel like I should go get on a plane. I wonder if the ladies next door. I did just get off a plane, and I got on a plane again tomorrow and Friday. So, I probably don't need to be on any more planes. Now, if we can just get gas prices to lower just a little bit, that would be ideal. Right. I would love to see.
We can afford to buy travel.
We can afford to take these trips. All right, so let's talk about unprecedented. And we thought we'd never say that word again. Like, it was off my list. But unprecedented flight cancellations, specifically with JetBlue. We saw it with Southwest this last week. We've talked about this, I feel like, every other week on the show. What are some of the things that agents can do as a reminder to help their clients when this happens to them?
Yes, I think the first thing is pay attention to what's going on, right? Know what's going on, but calm them down, right? I think that's the fact. We're not miracle workers. We just can't make things happen. I love when we offer options that say, I see that there's something on another airline coming here. And then the question becomes, well, am I getting my money back from this airline? How much is it going to cost me? Do I have to put the money out? Are they responsible for getting me back? And they're really not, essentially. Those days of reciprocation of saying, no, we've got a Delta flight for you when you were on a United, it's not really happening. So that becomes cumbersome to the client. So we back everything up to say, prepare them before they go. That's the most important thing that we can do is what does that preparation look like? Have we told them what some of the bad elements of the trip could be? I think that's where I find myself to a benefit when I've spent a percentage or a majority of the time explaining what could go wrong. We already know what's going to be right about the trip,
Right.
right? The sunshine, the beach, the whole trip, but what could go wrong on the way back? And so calming them down, first of all, going online and checking to see what you see is available. And it's very difficult sometimes because you might see a flight that's in there, but there's no seats on it, right?
Right.
So really, essentially, the most important thing is get in line and wait your turn to be taken care of.
Yeah,
That's
get in
important.
line, and then I also think they get in line, they also get on the phone, I get on the phone, and so we're doing 3 things at the same time. And that way, one of those hopefully will come through faster than the other. I think you brought up a really interesting point that airlines really no longer look for those alternative carriers to put you on. Certainly Southwest doesn't, right?
Correct.
They like to play in their own sandbox.
Yes.
Everyone else, I think, still tries, but ultimately, in some cases, they might just refund you the money and then you have to go buy that ticket, which, you know, if you're already delayed, it's going to be $800.
Outrageous, that's correct.
So
And the budget carriers are not really checking the other ones.
exactly.
So it's our mainstream 3 major airlines who are checking the other ones and maybe offering an option, but the budget carriers are not doing that.
Right. So just be prepared. If you keep a calm head, you know, a lot of times our clients calm down and just be accessible, right? You're not a miracle worker, but the fact that they call you and you pick up the phone or answer the text goes so far, right? That's that service that is invaluable. So hopefully we are
Hopefully.
making
God
our
willing.
way through this and they're starting to get things under control. But we do know there are more storms coming. I feel like now I got to add Al Roker into the show, right? The storms are coming this weekend. So again, the East Coast. So those of you that have clients traveling through Orlando or the Carolinas, they're going to get some weather. So just be aware, right? Prepare yourself.
Everything is working against you, right? So just be prepared of how that goes, right? What can we do to prepare ourselves? And I love your idea. Calm down, you know, take a deep breath, and then start to help.
Yes.
Because if we react to them and they're reacting negatively, it's going to be a mishmash.
Right.
And if we overpromise and underdeliver, it's going to be a mess also.
Right. And no one goes anywhere in the airline industry anymore when they're overheated. You're going to end up on a no-fly list very, very quickly. So really to remind your clients, look, you know, remember kindness and patience go a long way. You're going to find yourself on a flight sooner than the person that's yelling behind you.
And
So-
isn't it the idea to budget for it? I mean, we almost need to budget for that extra day potentially from a client perspective, like have that money, have the availability on your credit card, just know that there's something that could go wrong. We'll help you recoup whatever we can when you get back,
Right.
because no one's just gonna sit there and randomly hand you cash and say, here, go here. So you need to be prepared as a traveler to have that available, and we'll do whatever we can from our standpoint to help you
Right.
recoup.
And travel protection, please, 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 doesn't matter.
Yes.
Domestic, international, all of it helps. There are benefits when you are delayed for that long. So, you know, if you aren't offering it, make sure you are offering it. And if they don't accept it, have that signed authorization because even domestically, this is helping our clients these
Yes.
days. So, all right, fun topic.
Okay. Oh, there is one?
There is a fun topic, but first we're going to talk about a really interesting topic, Spirit and Frontier.
Mhm.
We've been trying to merge those names together and I haven't come up with one, you know, like Brangelina, you know, Benifer. I haven't figured it out yet, but that was an interesting piece. And now we have JetBlue coming into the mix saying, I want a piece of that pie too, or the whole pie.
Absolutely. When I looked at the Spirit Frontier merger, I thought it's okay. We can talk about bad airlines or bad companies. I think they're both good companies who don't run the best airlines, right? From a value perspective, they're good, but overall, from a consumer's perspective, they're not the greatest. Those two going together, I was mostly thinking about their routes. Their routes are similar, their times are similar. It didn't seem to make much sense. But JetBlue up here, this big nasty big brother, with an extra $1 billion in cash is coming in and saying, I need those Spirit routes, right? I would rather the Spirit routes. Similar companies, you know, the guy that owns Spirit, or the guy that owns JetBlue has a lot of airlines in his pocket. He's going to expand his routes using those intermediary routes on Spirit into the South America. That's what he's looking to do, right? So I think that those routes are what's important to them. I think it's a better fit for JetBlue and Spirit than I do for Frontier and Spirit, to be honest with you.
It almost seemed like one was knocking the other out. But do you remember the days of Frontier being amazing and the great commercials and the naming
Yes.
of the planes
Yes.
and the animals? I mean, I flew them all throughout college because they were a great carrier from San Francisco or Oakland to Denver. And I just remember like they were so different and uniquely
Yes.
different, and the animals and everything. It was just a big, warm, fuzzy hug. And then they really went to, kind of that budget carrier. I have to say, I flew them last week to Orlando, and I did not hate it. I mean, it was great for an hour and a half. The tray table, you can't help but laugh because I don't know that it fits a drink and a can, but I'm not paying for a drink and a can anyway. So, but I mean, I thought the service was great. The people were nice. It was on time. It didn't get canceled. So I was pleasantly surprised. But it was not the carrier of 20 years ago.
Yes, and if we think about the carrier of 20 years ago, don't forget why they were named the way that they were. Northwest Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Eastern Airline. All of these had a reason for their regions, right? And then all of a sudden, we blew the doors off of that, and there was mergers and acquisitions, which just opened up to the whole country and now the world. And that's why you see these routes expanding, because they're no longer just regional carriers any longer.
I had never heard of Southwest until I went to college.
Oh.
Because Southwest used to just go up and down California.
Yeah.
And then it started moving east.
So true. Northwest Orient. I mean, when we just think of all those names, there was a reason for that.
So some other interesting news, JP Morgan.
Yes.
And Frost Travel.
This is huge, right? So Frost Travel, a big player, billions of dollars in the world, right, when it comes to travel. A lot of corporate, some leisure. They take over Valerie Wilson Travel. I'm looking over Marie because we love Valerie Wilson Travel based out of New York, a luxury brand over a year ago. And now JP Morgan Chase takes over both of them. So the reason for that is if you look at the Capital One commercials, there's fulfillment for their trips, right? Now, JP Morgan Chase is like, we don't have this in such a good fashion. They needed a better company to provide those perk travels, so they took over Frost. Frost offers everything, right? They offer the corporate travel. They offer the luxury high-end travel. They offer the mid-range travel now. So that's why that merger and acquisition is very important. You're going to start to see JP Morgan Chase, the Chase card, offering other features and benefits. What does that mean to all of us when we start to see these in the industry? It's more competition for us because our customers who have those cards now have other opportunities that are similar to what we offer. So we have to be very careful. It's not like the days of competing against Costco because it's a price perspective. It's a whole other market. Right. So we have to think about what that looks like. So when you see these mergers and acquisitions, they are important to you, and you need to learn how to control your client base to understand what your values and features are versus what they can get from the credit card.
And I do have to say, I like the idea that they've partnered with high-end luxury.
Yes.
As opposed to, let's bring in Priceline into the fold, right? There's a big difference there between what they're trying to do. And Frost and Valerie Wilson, certainly, I mean, those are high-end luxury outlets. And the fact that they've gone that route is, I think it speaks to the industry that they see value in that idea.
Very, very good point. And that brings me to just one other quick thing. And it's the idea of Ensemble, one of our consortias. Unfortunately, we don't have Ensemble. We have Travel Leaders. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but we have Travel Leaders Network, which is a great consortia for us. Ensemble is another one based out of Toronto, was just acquired by a big company out of Toronto. So I think that there's strong value in knowing that when we expected there to be trouble in our travel industry by closing or shutting down, no, it's acquisitions, which means there's expansion in the travel industry. I was happy to see that. I know the president and CEO of that company very, very well, and I think that they're on the right track to move forward from a consortia standpoint. So whenever we see those things happening that are close to home, we feel lucky and beneficial that it's happening in our industry.
Yeah. And finally, this is something near and dear to my heart. We've talked about this a little before. Travel based on TV. I think this is so fun, and to be honest, I've never actually done it myself. The closest I got was maybe in New York City, but there are tours and an elevated need and request for tours based on our favorite television shows. So trips to Wyoming for Yellowstone, London for Bridgerton, second season, excellent. Sex and the City in New York, Outlander in Scotland. So all of these things are bringing a rejuvenation again to some of these destinations. So if you have clients that are loving what they're watching, make sure you're posting about these things. These sorts of posts on social media tend to get the most likes, the most shares, because they bring joy, right? If you love a TV show, they
So
bring
wait
joy.
a minute. You just said TV show, but you're watching all of those Hulus and all those other things. Now you're talking to an old timer who still watches television. So
I
do you watch television?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
We come home, we watch television. I will tell you my favorite is Modern Family. When Modern Family went to Hawaii, our phone rang for Hawaii.
Yes.
So we started to figure something out, right? We started to realize when these shows are planning on, because the week before they're always talking about where they're going to go. They were going to Vegas. Guess what we promoted the day after Modern Family went to Vegas
Yes.
or goes on a cruise? You have to think about what that looks like to a consumer that thinks, oh my gosh, they're going to Hawaii. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. So how does that look from a marketing
And let me
standpoint?
stay where they stay, which I believe was the Grand Wailea.
They did say it.
Yes, yes.
That's absolutely true. So these ideas, although they may be silly, they're out there and they're happening and people are watching them. I'm a fanatic. I'll be honest with you. The minute I see a Dairy Queen commercial come out for a new ice cream cone, that's where we're going for an ice cream cone. The minute Arby's has a new sandwich come out, we're doing that. So I love that you brought it up. I think it's important that we consider it because that's what people are watching.
Yeah. Well, and everyone travels for a different reason, right? And there are people that specifically do this type of travel.
Definitely.
They get obsessed with different TV shows, different movies. Harry Potter is a big one. There's all sorts of tours. So, you got to meet your clients where they are. It's not necessarily about where you want to go. It's where they want to go. And in particular, because this comes up all the time, Club Wyndham has created several suites that are based off of the Hallmark Channel Christmas movies. So again, this comes up every year.
Hallmark Channel.
Always last minute for Christmas, but there are suites out there that are replicated off of some of our favorite movie scenes from the Hallmark Channel Christmas movies. So book them, you guys. I want to hear about it.
That's right.
So, Bill, thanks so much for being
Thank
here.
you for having me. Thank you, agents. Have a great rest of the day.
Now get back to work.
All right. Thank you.
Go sell that Hawaii trip. All right, you guys, we are so excited, right? We've got this new platform. We've got a new way of being able to interact with our guests. And so I am very excited to welcome American Queen Steamboat Voyages, our company, and Victory Cruise Line merged recently, and they are now American Queen Voyages. And I am excited to welcome Scott Moore and Chef Regina for the first time to KHM today. Watch this little video.
All right, here we go.
Welcome, Scott.
Greetings. Welcome to. Can you see us, Carolyn?
We can see you. Where are you?
Welcome to Natchez, Mississippi. The
antebellum
home
capital,
capital of the world.
but
And
we're also the biscuit capital of the world and the Christmas movie capital of the world. We've had several Christmas movies filmed here this year.
I have no idea.
today we have a special treat. We have Chef Regina, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her story, and we're going to learn how she makes her famous biscuits. She's been dubbed the Biscuit Queen by the New York Times. So we're going to go into her cooking school right here.
So welcome to Natchez, and come on, you're going to learn more than you need to know about biscuits.
Excellent. And Scott, what is the relationship between American Queen and Chef Regina? How did the two of you relate?
Hi. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to give you the secret to how to make really good biscuits. Welcome, I'm Chef Regina Charboneau, and although I'm seventh generation Natchezian, and for many years we've accepted the riverboats on the Mississippi River here in Natchez, I am really proud to be affiliated with American Queen Voyages. I go back 10 years with them when they first purchased the American Queen and put it back on the river. But I grew up in Natchez, and I always say I spent 23 years trying to get away and 23 years trying to get back. I went to several Southern universities, and I had a better time at each one. And I ended up in Alaska, and that's a whole nother story. And I'm so excited to be taking the inaugural cruise on the one of our new boats from Vancouver to Alaska. I'm going to be doing that in early May. It's going to be an amazing voyage. And then, gosh, and I'm going to spend all summer, it's going to be great, on the Mississippi River and the Ohio River, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But anyway, I grew up in Natchez. I went to Alaska. I had an adventure there. I called my mother from a landline, it was so many years ago, and said, I have the best news. I'm not going to come back to finish college. I've taken a job at a construction camp, and I'm going to save my money and go to cooking school in Paris. And I did. And then I came back to Alaska, and my husband's then girlfriend introduced us, and we've been married 40 years. And I brought him back full circle to Natchez. But in the meantime, I opened restaurants in San Francisco, and that's where both of my boys were born. But I'm most known for Regina's at the Regis, which was a Sardi's West, and behind me are a lot of sketches from opening night parties at Regina's at the Regis. And so often on the cruises, I meet guests who have been to my restaurant through the years. And then I had Biscuits and Blues there, and I had a restaurant, Regina's Sonoma. But my husband took a job in New York. It pulled me to the East Coast. And then I ended up really homesick for Natchez, ended up here and raised my boys here, and had a historic home, Twin Oaks. And so for 22 years, I've been giving cooking classes to people that come visit Natchez. And I had a historic home that was on tour for years, and hosting guests from the American Queen, whether they would come to a biscuit class or tour our rum distillery, or just I've brought people in out of the rain on rainy days. But I really feel like have always been the ambassador of the American Queen, and now I'm officially the ambassador for the American Queen Voyages.
That's amazing.
So I'm gonna, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what an amazing story, and what a fun story to tell.
And there's so many chapters that we could have with guests over wine when they sail. And yes. What I'm really excited about, that I'm going to physically be on the boat quite a bit this summer and into the fall. So I hope that many people watching will book and come on when I'm there. And we just have such a great time. And I've created menus. I've created recipes that are reflective of the cultural and agricultural influences for embarkation. And that's just been great. I have a book that many people are familiar with called Mississippi Current. And it's food from the headwaters to the Gulf of Mexico. And it was inspired from my time on the American Queen and working with the company then. And now it's so great that I'm able to expand my horizons and go to the Great Lakes and Alaska and other places. So, but I'm going to take you into my little cooking school now, and I'm going to tell you the tricks of the trade for making great biscuits. And I have some made, but I don't know how to share them. And we don't have like the scent vision, but.
I know. Chef Regina, usually when we think of Southern cooking, we think of, kind of heavy fried food. What sort of items would we see on the ships based on the menus you've created?
Yes. Well, it's totally different because my restaurants in Natchez, which I've now, I semi-retired, and that lasted about 60 days before I opened my cooking school. I couldn't really take retirement, but I was very proud that I had 2 restaurants that did not have a deep fryer in them. But Southern cooking is a lot more. Some of my dishes are like my shrimp with a smoked tomato cream sauce over savory grits with garlic and rosemary. I do a lot with seafood and fish. And I think I work with Chef Paul Whalen Smith, who's our corporate chef for all the boats. We've worked together for over 10 years, and I call him a personal friend. I just came back from a week on the Empress, and I have to say, the food was fabulous. The entire trip, the staff, I had never been on that trip in the Pacific Northwest. And I even put together a little blog, because what I do, I like to go out and find all the goodies, whether it's a dive bar, a distillery, a shop that has pastries. I found a really cute place in Stevenson that was a coffee roaster in a Chevron station with gourmet donuts. So I love kind of finding all these little places. But, you know, Southern food is like the rest of America with Food Network and all. It's just expanded so much with fusion cooking. Another thing, without getting too long-winded, the influences after the Vietnam War with the Mississippi River. We have the Hmong population that were farmers that settled in St. Paul and in that area. And then you have the Vietnamese fishermen that settled in the Gulf. So we have a lot of Asian influences on the rivers now. And the Ohio River, which I just love, Louisville, I love Paducah, Kentucky, St. Louis. Those are going to be some amazing trips this summer. And I'm on like 25, I'm on 8 trips. And I'm on, in the month of July, I'm on literally on the boat like 25 days, the boat. So when I say I'm involved, I'm really, the guests have an up close personal time with me. And when in June, the American Queen, every time they're in town, I'm going to go do a biscuit demo, and we're going to have a little champagne toast before they sail away. No, I won't sail with them because I have a cooking school and some other things to do, but I will definitely be there to greet all the guests and show them the biscuits. So let's talk about biscuits real quick.
Well, before biscuits, you have to talk about cocktails, because she also does.
Yeah.
So today I came, it's my second time here at the cooking school, and I wanted the milk punch. And we went to a restaurant, and I had some milk punch, but it wasn't like Regina.
I know.
So
I'm going to give you the recipe, and he's going to send it to everybody. He's going to make sure y'all all get the biscuit recipe. But yes, we love our cocktails and Natchez. And I'll tell you very quick my favorite story about my mother. Great. My mother was the ultimate Southern hostess. And whenever friends, when I was living in San Francisco or New York, if they were coming to visit, I would make them come to Natchez. And one of my friends came back and said that my mother was lovely, hosted them, and offered him a cocktail. And he said, it was early in the afternoon. He said, do you have something non-alcoholic? And he said, Regina, your mother turned to your father and said, JP, darling, do we have any beer or wine? That is a true story. So welcome to Natchez.
Yes.
So beer and wine are considered non-alcoholic.
Yes.
So, and where my coffee milk punch is perfectly acceptable before 10 in the morning, because we call it a libation.
Right,
So,
right. Brunch without cocktails is just breakfast.
that's right. That's our motto in Natchez and everywhere else. So let me just give you the basic outline of biscuits. And I don't know how I ended up queen of the biscuits, but that's Gourmet Magazine and New York Times have been very generous with that title. But the recipe is basic, where it's flour, and you'll get the recipe, but it's 4 cups of flour, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of baking powder. But what's different about my biscuits is I use 3 parts margarine and 1 part butter. And the reason is, if you use all butter, they're short and crumbly. But the margarine became my substitute for Crisco, because the first time I made biscuits was in Paris. And even though I had eaten biscuits every morning of my life, I couldn't find Crisco in Paris, and I found margarine, which is a solid vegetable oil. They came out so good, same recipe for 42 years. And buttermilk. So I went ahead and I mixed that. The key to my biscuits, there are 2 mistakes that people make. One, over mixing. I literally count to 10. I go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Natchez, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I put it on the tea towel. The other thing is, if you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, you can do that part by hand, because the purpose is to just blend the buttermilk with the flour, so you're not putting a wet mess on the tea towel. The most important tool is my tea towel. And this was probably the best recipe I've ever come up with, because you make the biscuits, you don't get your hands dirty, you don't get your counter dirty, you use the tea towel. And the other thing is, so what we do after you mix and not over mix, you put it there, you use your tea towel to pull the dough together. And then I've already rolled it 3 times because I didn't think y'all wanted to spend all afternoon with me, but I would have loved that.
Yeah.
And I put my hands out on the pin and you roll to about a 1/2 inch thick. And you roll and then you fold in thirds, press the air out, and we're going to do this 8 times. So this is number 4, and a 1/4 turn. And what we're doing, it's a process called laminating. So it's a really good thing to grow up in the biscuit capital of the world and then actually make biscuits in Paris. So this is laminating, and then I flip it over and you do it again. And the other thing is what we're doing, and if you think about the science of it, by rolling it 8 times, but each time we're folding it in thirds, we're actually creating 24 layers in these biscuits. And I have the other thing that you'll love about this recipe is you make them and you freeze them. So you always have them. They're great for holidays.
Yep.
And y'all made them, right? Or it's just guess?
Wait, so Carolyn, you have the towel with the biscuit recipe now, right?
Oh, and I thought it was such a pretty towel, but now I know what I'm supposed to use it for.
Yes.
You have to work,
You have to
Carolyn.
work it. That's why I sent it. So
Yes. So let me ask you this, Chef Regina.
Yes.
2 of the 4 of my family are gluten-free. Can I use the 1-to-1 gluten-free flour?
Yes,
Will I get the same-ish results?
it is, it's never quite the same. I even looked at a picture that you showed me, and I can even tell when somebody uses a different flour by looking at them, but they're really good because it has all that flavor and those flakes. So definitely, in fact, somewhere here, I've got a bag of gluten-free flour, and I tell people that they can use that.
Okay.
One thing I have not been able to do is remove the calories, but you can definitely use gluten-free flour.
and the key is
Yes.
in the mixer, the 10 seconds,
Yes.
and doing the roll 8 times. And I think this is the second time I've seen Regina make the biscuits, and typically we want to roll the biscuits out flat. We want to keep rolling until it's all in there, and that's the wrong thing to do. That doesn't give you the flaky biscuits.
That's right. You just do it, and it's the folding in the times. And also, I tell people, if your phone rings while you're doing this, and I have certain people in my life that if they call me while I'm making biscuits, I know to take the tea towel, wrap it up, and put it in the refrigerator to keep it cold, because they will not be quick. And but so the fat is cold but not frozen. And again, I don't know if you can see, it becomes a much smoother dough every time you roll and fold. And then I'm
on
going to
every American Queen voyage, at least on the U.S. rivers. Can we get these biscuits?
Yes, I'm actually making them, and people will eat them.
Yes.
Definitely on the American Queen.
So she's talking about the June sailings we have on the American Queen, New Orleans to Memphis or Memphis to New Orleans. If your clients book a suite, then they get to come to Regina's cooking school right here and have a personal instruction on how to make the biscuits.
Well, and they get a brunch class.
Yes, brunch class. Yes.
So they
yes.
get the milk punch, shrimp
Everything.
and grits, and biscuits, and they learn all of the recipes. But I'm going to show you these, but how flaky. I don't know if you can see all the layers.
Yeah.
That's what we're after. These need to be rolled 2 more times, but I didn't want to take too much of y'all's time. But let me show you. So the key is you take them, you cut them out, and you freeze them. So when I cut them out, I put them on a sheet pan and stick them in the freezer. They have to be frozen. If you think about the science of it, if they're room temperature, they're going to kind of spread out, but frozen, they're going to rise up. And so these are frozen right out of the freezer, and I put them in the oven at 350 degrees, and everybody's oven is different. So 22 to 25 minutes, depending on your oven. But the end result is the best. So now, when talking about Southern food and so many things, I mean, there's so many great dishes. And what I'm trying to do and what we're trying to do is very much focus on the sense of place. So even though biscuits fit into the Mississippi River, I feel like I have so many other things to offer. And one of the things, I do a pot pie, and I roll the biscuit crust out with bacon and thyme, and that's how I top my chicken pot pie. And, you know, I've done everything from Nashville. I do hot chicken tacos and kind of tone them down because hot chicken is a lot to take. And I do pierogi for Cincinnati, and it's for Cleveland, right?
Ravioli is
St. Louis,
yes,
but we're
yes.
pierogi.
Yes.
Cleveland,
yes,
not Cincinnati.
Yeah, yeah.
Cincinnati, of course, is the 5-way chili, which I've got that recipe done.
Yeah.
So I've created recipes for every port, and we'll continue to do that. And I'm just very excited about river travel and
you're going on the Great Lakes. So
and
she's
the
got a
Great
Great Lakes
Lakes.
sailing.
Oh.
And actually, we've changed our 3 Great Lakes sailings in September that we're actually doing overnights in Quebec City, Montreal, Toronto,
and Mackinac
Island.
I can't wait for that trip.
That's a neat
So
itinerary.
it's Chicago to Montreal, and
Yes.
you get everything from, to be able to spend the night on the boat. They'll be in Mackinac for 2 nights. I've
Yes.
never been there. I've always wanted to go. And then Montreal, I've always been fascinated with. Plus, when I started doing my research about Montreal with that heavy French influence, there are traditions that they do at Christmas that were very much family traditions. That my father was from South Louisiana, and Christmas Eve and the Réveillon dinners, they do there just the way we do in Louisiana. So anyway, I'm loving this. I'm loving all the research. And most importantly, I love the guests and spending time with them. So I hope they can join me. And you need to come on one of the trips.
Yes, Carolyn.
I would love to. And I can't thank you both enough for spending the time with us today. What a treat. I know you're both so busy, and so it has just been a joy. I'm going to go home and I'm going to try these biscuits, and I'm going to report back as to how it went.
Okay.
So the one thing that I would just say, American Queen Voyages is all about get off the road. It's all about this encounter travel, just like this experience, just like coming to Natchez, and all the different little places that we go. So it's really about North American cruising and all the cultures and the culinary and all the experiences. So we hope that you'll bring some of your clients and join us, and you'll get to experience and meet people like Chef Regina.
I would love that.
Sometimes we tend to bypass our own backyard.
Yes.
And I think you've proven that that's something we don't want to do, that we want to come visit areas that maybe we haven't been to before, but are in our own country.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you on board.
Oh, you guys, thank you
sure.
so much for your time. It was great to meet you both and see you both down there, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully soon.
Yes,
Okay.
and
All
there's
right.
a video of my biscuits on, I was on the Hallmark channel, and there's a great video if you want a little coaching on the website, reginaskitchen.com. So there's video and recipes. So.
And also on Regina's website is her recent trip on the Columbian Snake River. So
Yes.
she had a day by day and a lot of the neat things that she discovered.
Yeah,
So
in
take
fact,
a look at that.
I titled it Distilleries, Burgers, Bourbon, and Bakeries, oh my. Because I just discovered nothing but food and drinks. It was great. So
That's wonderful. Thank you both so
All
much.
right, thank you, Carolyn, for
bye,
having us.
Carolyn.
All right.
Love seeing you.
Okay.
Bye
Bye
bye.
now.
You guys, I don't know about you, but I am like so hungry right now, and something tells me the bag of carrots on my desk is not quite going to cut it after the show. But I did want to let you know, Mia Mackey unfortunately had a last minute change in her schedule, so she will not be here this week to talk about how we delicately fire a client. But don't worry, she will be back another week because that is an important topic. But I am excited to welcome Marie Smith from the KHM Travel Group groups team here, because we talk about groups all the time. And hi, Marie.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
You too.
So I'm so glad to be in office this week. It's weird to be able to walk down the hall and see you guys.
I know it's like you're not behind a computer screen.
I'm not
like,
behind
oh my
a
God, she's
computer
real.
screen. I am real. But you have a really important topic today because we really encourage people to do groups here at KHM Travel Group. I'm sure whoever's tuning in that's with another agency, groups are definitely the way to go. They are a great way to make money. But in order for them to be successful, we have to do and be something first. What is that?
Oh, absolutely. You need to be a travel agent. You have to have that base foundation in understanding how to book travel, how to qualify your clients is a big one, because qualifying groups is a bigger dive into the qualification process. And doing that's really going to help you move on and help your group leaders, hopefully you're working with group leaders, make those groups more successful. Or you want to be able to cultivate your own audience, like Jamie Turner and a couple other of our agents who have that great client base where they themselves can go out, get the group space and market it because they have a targeted audience. They have questioned their audience of where they want to travel. They're doing bucket lists. They're doing destinations that they want to do. So they have done their homework and can now go and sell.
Right. But it's important to, Marie says, be that travel agent. You might think, well, of course I am. I signed up. I'm part of an agency. But really understanding how a booking works,
Yes.
the process of a booking, how we work with suppliers on an individual basis before we go into the group realm and say, okay, I'm going to do this 25 times. If you know how to do it on an individual basis really, really well and have that knowledge base of who do I talk to, what questions am I asking, then we can move on to the bigger picture, which is groups. So any thoughts on some of those things that agents should be asking themselves before they say, am I ready to take on a group?
Well, I think one of the things, because we do have a lot of agents who still work a 9-to-5 looking to make travel their full time, is do I have the time to set aside for a group? Because it can get overwhelming at times, just depending on how large the group is. Destination weddings can be more high maintenance than a family reunion. So do you have the time to take it on? Do you have the resources? Do you know the suppliers well enough that you feel comfortable with them? Do you have connections within them? Have I called the group team and pick their brains on that? So those are some things that you should have on your.
That's great. Well, and I know that it's always, we sometimes can think we can take on more than we can. And I think organization is key as well. Hopefully, that ideal agent in general understands organization and how to weave through all those group dates and the timelines and things like that in order for it to be successful.
Absolutely, because when we go into contracted groups, so we're signing off on an agreement, there's risk involved because we have certain dates where we can give back X amount of inventory without penalty, but if we go over that, there's penalty. And who does that penalty really go against? Well, it goes against us, the agent, or it's your group leader. So you need to be that constant partner with that group leader. You're in it together to be successful. So how are your communication skills? How well organized are you? We recommend our contracted groups with ALG because they have great technology with Vax Vacation Access. We have Classic Vacations because their Classic Assist is wonderful with keeping track of everything, and GoGo Vacations because, again, they have all the tools we need to help make sure our inventory is in line. What dates do we have to return things? We have great relationships with them, so we know that back and forth. Because if you miss a date, everything's to the black and white. It's not like an FIT where, oops, I didn't make the payment, it goes away. It stays there until you tell them what to do because you've already taken that inventory out. And when we're looking at doing quotes and such, don't think that you have to go get a quote from the supplier. You can look at what the regular going rate is that day for wherever they want to travel and utilize that as a baseline because group rate might be the same rate. It could be higher than the going rate, especially if it's a corporate group. Corporate rates always tend to be higher in a group realm than individual rates. So groups are not a discount. So do make sure that you don't overpromise anything or make assumptions because we know what happens when we assume. We need to know exactly how the group world works before we put ourselves out there because it's not a kind of fake it till you make it because you can really end up burning bridges before you even start.
Right, and communication with the group is key. Earlier today, we had a conversation about groups, and one of the things you pointed out was you really need to evaluate what sort of group space you're pulling, because your group leader might be a cheapskate and want that entry-level room category, and that's it for them. But the rest of the group might want suites or ocean view or ocean front, and so you almost need to how do you figure out what that group makeup is going to look like when your leader is looking for base level, but that not the entire group might want that.
That's a great point. And that comes to thoughtful room blocks. When I do a group, I sit down with my group leader and I review what type of inventory that we do have. And I talk to them about their last travels, where they've been, who are their friends, who's coming with them on this group, what do their friends like to do, where do they all most likely stay, have you traveled before as a group, where have you stayed? Because I want to try to get a feel, because I have to qualify my guests, their guests, through the group leader. So you try to get a feel for that. And in cruising, it's really easy for cruising to get that feel. And also too, with cruising, it's easy to swap out inventory. Land is a different story, because we're not playing with FIT inventory. We're playing with a set inventory that is determined by each and individual property themselves. Right. So it's not like, well, I see they have it online for their FITs to book. I can get for my group. Maybe not. So those are things that we have to worry or to look at there. But it's asking the right questions, trying to get a feel for them. Since Zoom is now in our lives, I think we should Zoom with all of our clients, especially because some of our clients aren't local, but Zoom with them. And then when you're in the Zoom background, is it in their office? Is it in their house? What can you tell about their lifestyle? What are they spending money on, to tell how their spend can be for their accommodations?
Well, and everyone has that one friend that always wants the 2-bedroom presidential suite with the butler, and you want to make sure that somehow you are able to access that. It might not be in group inventory, but how can you access it and pull it in?
Absolutely.
So those are the important questions to ask.
And always make sure that your group leader knows that we're working this together. It's the group leader's best interest to make sure everyone comes through you to make the bookings, that they cannot go outside you to make the bookings. Because I may not have it right now in my inventory, but I'm going to go ahead and ask for the inventory. And it might take a few days. Because again, they have to go and ask for the inventory from the hotel proper. It's not just, we'll just take one of our individuals, because it's all revenue management, which is a different conversation for a different day.
Or year or month. Well, and what it all comes down to is make sure that you are ready as the individual to take on this sort of a task. And if you're not, then, there are resources available to you. Maybe there's an agent you can work with on it so you can learn, kind of job share that piece. So, make sure that you understand what it's going to take from your life in order to take this group on. But we want everyone to take it on because, there's such good money, and there's referral potential, and there's great benefits that can come from a group that's run well.
Oh, absolutely. And, I can encourage you guys, we have a wealth of information in our group team with Joanne and Kevin. Call us, talk to us. We have an appointment inside our Acuity calendar, and it's for group travel options. Talk with us, brainstorm with us. There's nothing Kevin and Joanne haven't seen or have done. Joanne was talking to someone yesterday, and I know she's very, very young, but she's approaching her 40th year as being a travel agent.
Wow.
Putting her teeth at travel school and way back in the day. So we've seen a lot of things go through. So, try us, just give us a call, because we have the information, we have the knowledge, we want to help you grow your business. So, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Awesome. Marie, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it today. You guys, that is the end of our show for today, April 6th, 2022, our first one on our new platform. We hope you enjoyed it. We have so many new things and interesting things coming this month. This is Autism Awareness Month, and joining us next week is Ron Pettit, part of the Disability and Inclusion team over at Royal Caribbean. One of our favorite KHM agents, Brian Miller, will be here to talk special needs travel next week as well. So we hope you'll join us same time, same place next week. Have a great one, everyone.